When it comes to a vegetable garden, particularly a raised bed kitchen garden, there are only a few tools you need. So if you're shopping for tools this season, this is the list you want to pay attention to. These are the only tools you really need for a vegetable garden. If we haven't met yet, my name is Nicole Johnsey Burke. I'm the owner and founder of Gardenary Incorporated. We're on a mission to make gardening ordinary, which means we want people like you to love your garden because it's easy, because it's beautiful, and because it's productive. So you're probably gonna need some tools to make that happen. But the good news is you don't need a lot. Now, if you're thinking about gardening tools, I'm guessing you're probably imagining like a big hoe, right? Or a shovel or some big pruners. But when it comes to the kitchen garden, you want to shrink that down and make it much smaller. Because when we're working in raised beds and we've got trellises and lots of plants growing, we actually need tools that are very nice and compact and can help us get into those small spaces. So over the years, I've created a little basket full of my favorite tools. I bring it everywhere that I go, and I'm going to tell you what's inside that basket right now. So the very first tool that I never leave home without is a long, deep shovel or a trowel or a spade. But we want it deep, and the reason why is because in a raised bed, we're going to be planting very intensively. And so we want to be able to dig really nice and deep for every plant that we're putting in the space, making the most of the depth of the raised bed, and then allowing each plant to take up the amount of space it needs, but nothing more. Tool number 2 that I love to have in the kitchen garden is a hand rake. Now, let me tell you why. In the kitchen garden, one thing that is so important is keeping the soil clear of debris. Why? Because we massively plant these gardens full, lots and lots of plants. And so the last thing that you want is to have leaf debris, leaf litter, and any kind of plant mass sitting on the soil. Why? Because they are roads, highways for pests. So every time you've got a leaf sitting on the soil like this, any kind of caterpillar, slug, snail, it's just going to climb right up off the soil onto the leaf, and boom, it's got a way to eat your plants, and that's not good. So a little hand rake is so nice and easy to use. Every time you're out in the garden space, you literally take the rake and just rake underneath all your plants, getting the leaf debris off of the soil surface. That keeps the pest hopefully just hiding underneath the soil, not coming to the surface or having to come and show their face completely, so that you can deal with them, in other ways. Number 3, I love to have a dibber. So a dibber is helping me make sure my seeds go to the right depth and no deeper. If you're in the kitchen garden, depth really matters, because if you plant the seed too deep, it's not going to germinate. You need the seed just about 1 to 2 times the width of that seed and no deeper. Well, a dibber is going to help you do that. So dibbers are generally a little stick, but it's made at a angle like this, like a triangle, but longer. And so when you put it down in the soil, it's making this nice little hole that kind of comes to a point, and you have markings on that dibber that show you this is 1 inch, this is 2 inches, this is 3 inches. So I use this to plant something really deep, like a garlic clove, and then I'll use this to plant something really shallow, like a little lettuce or a spinach seed. My 4th tool, and perhaps my favoriteest of the favorite, is needle nose pruners. So these are pruners that are going to cut your plants, but they're going to come at a needle nose. They're going to make this really sharp point at the end. I've just found it is so much easier to work in small spaces and among all these plants with needle nose pruners. Needle nose pruners are going to allow you to get in to every little nook and cranny of your plants and be sure you're only pruning off the things you want to take off and nothing that's going to be fruiting or producing the food that you're growing. I've been using needle nose pruners for years, and it's a game changer. I prune quite a bit. In fact, in the way that I plant a garden, that's kind of the only thing I do. I don't fertilize, I don't mulch, I don't weed, I just prune. And so I need pruners that are good. I probably have 4, 5, 6 pairs of pruners that I'm always losing in my garden. So I need 5 or 6 so I can use one, lose it, and then go find the one I lost last week and start again. So get yourself a bunch of needle nose pruners, and if you're planting my way, the Gardenary way, you're going to have lots of pruning to do, because we massively plant our gardens so that pruning and harvesting really is the only task that we have to do. So you're going to need a really good tool to do it. Next up is twine. So coming along with the idea of the Gardenary way of planting with loads of plants inside the garden, you need to tie the plants up. You need to have plants up onto trellises and supports so they're not sprawling all over the garden and falling over all the other plants that you planted. So I keep twine with me at all times, a big ball of twine. We also have some twine that hangs on the trellises, so I'll keep just rolls of twine right there at the ready when I'm working with my plants. And so right as I'm pruning, I'm also cutting twine and tying up plants along the trellis to one another and to stakes. So all those vining plants, things like tomatoes, pole beans, cucumbers, that's in the warm season, even things like nasturtiums and other vining flowers. And then in the cool season, you got snow peas, sugar snap peas, fava beans. All those vining plants, they need to be tied to the trellises, and you're going to need some twine to do that. And finally is a planting line. Now, I didn't start using one of these until just a few years ago, but a planting line is my final tool that is a must-have for me. So again, to go with the Gardenary way of planting, which is packing in loads and loads and loads and loads of plants, I like to have a planting line so that I can plant right alongside and make sure everything is staying in a nice line. When you're planting this closely, when you're using seeds and plants like in a variety, I love having a planting line to make sure everything is staying in place. And when it all grows in, it's going to have this nice symmetry and beauty to it, even though I had lots of different plants and seeds going in at the same time. That's all you need. You don't need a hoe or a shovel or I don't know, what else are those? Weeders. You don't need any of those special kind of tools. You just need a deep, narrow trowel or spade. You need a rake, a hand rake. You need a dibber. You need a planting line. You need a pair of pruners. And then finally, you need some twine. So those are my 6 favorite tools that I cannot do without when it comes to planting in the kitchen garden. There is a bonus, and that is my seed spacing ruler. So not a must, but when it comes to planting seeds, I'll have that planting line out, and then I'll use a seed spacing ruler as I go along to make sure I'm getting all my seeds spread out. I'm a lazy gardener, and a lot of times I don't spread out my seeds, and then I pay for it for a long time afterwards because I just don't want to come back and pull those seeds back out of the garden. So if you want to add one more to this must-have list, it would be a seed spacing ruler. Kitchen gardening is so different than ordinary gardening, than row gardening. It is much more high touch, but it's also just easier. You're not needing these big shovels. This isn't about big physical labor. This is more about tender and special labor. This is about getting in, taking care of plants in the minutia. And so you really don't need these really big tools. You just need a few small tools that allow you to do a great job. So if you like one of my tools, tell me about it in the comments, or if you have a tool to add to the list, I would love to know that too. Most of the tools mentioned in today's episode are all inside the Gardenary shop. I only carry the things in the shop that I actually use in my garden. So if you want to check those out to get ideas for the kind of tools you want to have for your garden, you can do that at gardenary.com or go to shop.gardenary.com to go straight to our tools and supplies. All right, thank you so much for listening to the Gardenary podcast. If you found this helpful, if you are ready to go get you some tools to make your garden game even better, then I would love it if you subscribe to the channel or tell your friends to come and watch too. I can't wait to see you next time on the Grow Yourself podcast. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.